This is where cowboys meet aliens. North America is the birthplace of all horses, zebras and donkeys, some 4 million years ago. From here, these proto-horses spread around the world, the last of them dying out in America about 12,000 years ago. Today's herds are left over from the Spanish explorers, Native Americans, and our changing industries. Now there are some 72,000 wild horses in America, plus at least 16,000 burros. Attempting to reduce numbers, the US Bureau of Land Management rounds up thousands of wild horses each year, breaking up herd and family groups, placing them in holding pens to be held for adoption, if possible. Advocates like Return to Freedom are calling for alternative solutions, including wild horse sanctuaries and fertility control programs.
We want to add a voice for the horse. We want to be a voice for the horse, as do many Americans. They inspire people all over the world.
When we think about humankind's relationship with other animals, perhaps no species is so loved and so much a part of human history as the horse. Here in California, thousands of wild horses share the landscape with cattle, sheep, people, and other wild animals. And competition for land, for grazing, and for water means that the population of wild horses has to be managed. And how this is achieved is a highly contentious issue, and emotions run high on all sides of the debate. So I've come here to learn about the place of wild horses in the recent history of this country, and to meet the people fighting to protect and to preserve one of the most iconic species in the American West.
My investigation brings me to the cattle ranching town of Alturas, California, one of the centers of the controversy. These hills are dotted with herds of wild horses and are also home to one of the Return to Freedom sanctuaries. I'm meeting up with Return to Freedom's head, Neda DeMaio, and her team to try and spot some wild horses still running free on the land.
Morning, morning.
Hey.
What have we got?
Well, we thought there were some way high up, but a few have come a little bit closer. And there's some pronghorn out there, too.
At the back. So there's only about half a dozen that we can actually see at the moment, aren't there?
Yeah. They're really far away.
And they are miles away.
I think the next place that we'll go is a place called Dry Lake.
Okay.
It's a playa, but there's water on the south end of the playa, and we may be able to see. I've had good luck up there in the past. I've also gone up there when there were zero.
Okay, well, it's nature. You
Yes.
never know.
Yes, but there's often horses up there.
I was probably 5 or 6 when I saw horses being chased and captured on the television. And I can remember that moment. I remember getting very, very angry. And I told my mom, when I grow up, I'm going to create a place where these animals are safe.
Is that definitely 2 on the top left, or is that?
On our way to the plateau, we spot some more wild horses, remaining very secretive, nestled in the trees close to a mile away. To find larger groups, we'll have to keep going, climbing high into remote desert mountains.
This herd management area is 800,000 acres in size, which is just vast. And we've been driving for probably 45 minutes off the road, just down these crazy dirt roads, and now we're off the dirt road and onto this. It shows you how difficult these areas are to access and how remote some of these herds are. I've seen at least 3 wild horses. There we go. Come just a little bit further forward. There we go, on the skyline. Brilliant, and checking us out. It was some effort to get here. Wonderful, look at that. And there they are, we found them, the wild horses. Here they come, look at that. We're in the middle of nowhere on this high plateau, probably at about 5,000 feet above sea level. And there's wild horses playing in the lake, there's others playing on the lake shore. There's others walking in from the surrounding woodlands to join them. This is absolutely extraordinary. So we came out of that valley, which was in itself pretty beautiful, and climbed very steeply up, very, very bumpy. We had to leave the less capable vehicles at the bottom. And now here we are on top of this extraordinarily beautiful plateau, this stunning lake, and there's a couple of herds of the wild horses there. It's just magnificent sight. They're spread all on the hillside, and then this group of maybe 20 down by the lake, just fighting. When we first came over the top, I could see a couple reared up and rolling in the dust. And they are in the middle of nowhere. They are miles away from anywhere up here. And here they are, living out their lives in what is just seeming like a garden bowl. It's spectacular. Such a diversity of plants.
Global climate change is happening, so public lands are more and more stressed. And our multi-use of this public lands is more and more controversial because it's not only horses that impact that range, it's every other use out there impacting that range. That water is limited.
There's a picture of serenity and wilderness because we are in the middle of nowhere. I like to think there's hopefully some cougars that live up here as well and maybe predate on the horses, keep their numbers down, and that there's a strong functioning ecosystem.
So out here, when we have lots of horses, there are some of them that, like these, that you may see all the time, and there are some of them that would be really challenging to find. But we're open to all ideas. Obviously, we aren't winning at the fertility control game by ourselves, and so we're open to all these partnerships.
Yeah.
And Netta is a great partner.
Well, we appreciate it. We've been working really hard since 2000 to really take the model from the sanctuary to be something that can be utilized on the range to manage horses on the range. And that's what we're hoping we can achieve. And it's a grand effort, and it's going to take time and an investment of money and time. And yeah, good team players.
Next, our search for wild horses on this huge range turns up a very thirsty herd, which doesn't mind walking right up to us.
See the dust? Wow, they're picking up speed. They're coming in.
On our second day, searching for wild horses running free, we head out across the Nevada border to an area known to have scattered herds. It's obvious to me that trying to locate some of these wild herds is a nigh on impossible task. We're talking hundreds of thousands of acres of pristine wilderness and very few tracks to even access the land. They're somewhere between half a mile and a mile away, so it's hard to make them out very well. They're shimmering in the early morning light, but it's great to see them, and the area is just absolutely huge. It's a vast expanse. We're on a dirt road, and we stopped and scanned around with the binoculars, and there they are. There's 3 of them. And we're far enough away not to have an impact on them for the time being. Let's see whether we can get closer. We move a few miles up the road to another likely area, the Carter Reservoir in the Wild Horse Management Area, which has one of the only sources of water in the region.
I see, okay.
Actually, that might be a couple of cows. There's 2 cows under that tree. The horse is there. See this little cluster of half a dozen trees?
Yeah.
There's a horse on the rightmost tree.
If we're starting from the leftmost group here, there's about 4, and then as you pan your way across this ridge here, there's about 14 in total in small groups under various trees.
Seven have just come out of there. And then we've got
And there's
these.
7 over here.
That's amazing, they're coming.
And there's a young one in there too.
Yeah, 4 coming straight at us.
And they're still
Determined
coming.
way.
Yeah. I think they're coming to water.
And they haven't slowed down. They must have spotted us.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, the rear ones just taking a look.
Yep. There was a lot of precipitation this year out here.
Okay.
So it's a very arid area for sure. There's not a lot to eat, but they had a good winter. Wow, look, they're picking up speed. They're coming in.
They are totally undeterred.
They're coming in strong. So there's good grazing in general in this area right now. We're not seeing it right around here because they've been coming here to drink. So they've grazed down this area for sure.
Let's trample though. This is what it looks like after elephants have been in. They just trample everything.
Yeah. So they'll eat around the waterhole, then they'll move out to eat further and further, and that's really good for their hooves. Yeah, these horses have a lot of the dun factor, which is always a throwback to the early Iberian genetics.
So these are your Spanish Mustangs?
They have a lot of Spanish influence in here.
Awesome.
This is amazing.
I was not expecting this at all.
It's always a thrill, you know, when you get this close. This is a wonderful, opportune moment. They're always communicating to each other, and they always know where each other are and how far. That Winnie helps tell them the distance, you know.
And here they are just grooming each other.
They are grooming each other, yeah.
So that's this big stallion on the left getting some nice attention.
That's
Yeah,
a little
young
colt.
Male. Yeah, it's a young male.
So that's his offspring, and that was a very wonderful moment between the father and the son. So he's educating his son, and they play together, and he'll educate him.
There's one thing seeing them in a crowd, and it's nice because you're close.
Yeah.
But it's totally different seeing them out in the wild.
Completely. This is real life. This is how it should be.
Absolutely.
You know.
I love how they've checked out. Are we okay? We're obviously no
Yeah.
threat. Still looking over.
He's really
Look
looking
that.
at us.
Yes. This is pretty extraordinary. We have these 4 wild horses that have just come in and 35 yards away from us. But what I love is they've behaved exactly as an antelope or another wild animal would in Africa, where I do most of my work. So they've slowly approached, and then when they've come down to the water hole, the adult male goes first. He tests it out, he checks it out, while the others keep watch. And only after making sure that there's no danger in the water will he drink. And then after that, they'll come down. It's fascinating seeing proper wild animal behavior. Here comes a dust devil. Look at that.
From the desert domain of the wild horses on the state line, I decide to pay a visit to one of the Bureau of Land Management's corral facilities. I want to find out more about how and why Mustangs end up here.
It must cost an absolute fortune to keep this many horses.
Well, it costs about $5 per horse per day in a facility like this.
Taking in everything.
Taking in everything. That includes veterinary costs, hoof trimming, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we're at the Palomino Valley Wild Horse and Burro Center. It's one of our facilities that receive horses that we've gathered from overpopulated herds on public lands.
Yeah. And that's all over just Nevada or California? Or
This facility mostly takes animals from California and Nevada, but it can take really any horses from any part of the rangelands.
What do you know about the horses that we're looking at right now?
So these guys are actually from the Pine Nut Mountains, which is just about 50 miles south of where we're standing right now.
Okay.
And so they were gathered only a couple weeks ago. Rangeland out there was not able to sustain the number of horses that were there, in particular the water sources that we had out there.
What are the main objections that people have to the gathers?
The helicopter is actually the safest and best way we can actually gather these animals. Before they were done on horseback, which was just terrible for the saddle horses and for the wild horses. It took a lot longer. Horses had to travel a lot further distance in order to be gathered. And so helicopter is actually very efficient and actually really safe for the animals.
Well, the impacts of a gather are, some amount of chaos that can't be controlled for. Those horses are going to be separated physically when they're gathered via helicopter, and then when they go into the trap site, then they're separated by sex. So whatever those family groups had been are fractured forever.
Just how to manage the growing Mustang population remains a dilemma. Tomorrow I visit sanctuaries where wild herds are kept together and thrive.
This is unexpected. It's absolutely amazing.
It's time to visit the Alturas Return to Freedom Sanctuary that Neda, Celeste and her team are managing here, thanks to a unique leasing arrangement with a local rancher. Routine visits to the sanctuary allow them to check up on the herd and apply the same fertility program to mares here as they use on the free Mustangs. A key solution, they believe, in managing the wild horse population.
Are there loads and loads of sanctuaries around the country for captured wild horses?
There's not loads and loads. There are some, and they're all a little different. They focus a little differently. Some focus more on adoption, and some sanctuary horses, but they don't have stallions. Most don't have stallions. Today, the horses need a solution, and we want those to be non-lethal and humane. So we're working on protecting them on the range and protecting them when they get captured and come off the range as well. Our main focus, we have a couple. One is primarily is trying to maintain the intact family bands and social structures that the horses have created themselves.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, relocate them directly to the sanctuary. That's hard to do with helicopter roundups.
Okay, because they get split.
They get totally split up, and unless you're on the range or know people that have documented those horses, at best, when it's a Bureau of Land Management roundup, you're able to try to save the pieces, if you will.
And some of those pieces, the Gila herd, descended from the original conquistador Spanish line of horses, were here to greet us.
It's absolutely awesome seeing them acting as a herd. They're a large herd animal, but that's 100 and something horses in one place, wild horses. And they're all behaving exactly as you'd imagine a prey species would. So as soon as we came around the corner in the vehicles, you'd see the ears pop up. They all turned to face us, and then they've relaxed again. And then when I got out the car and walked towards them again, boom, they lock onto me, ears are up, check me out, okay, that's no threat. And then they get back to scrapping amongst themselves again. When was this herd originally gathered?
Originally, they were gathered from Arizona.
Yeah.
They're known as the Painted Rock Herd.
Okay.
And we call them the Gila herd, G-I-L-A.
Like the Gila monster from Arizona.
There you go, yeah. And they were gathered in 2003, and then they were relocated to a private sanctuary, which went into hard times a few years ago. And there was no population management, so the herd had multiplied. There were 30 originally, and it became over 150 or so. We took 100 and I believe 112, 116 of the horses to keep the herd together. Yeah, we're trying to maintain a population that this land can sustain while still keeping future generations present, because this is a Spanish colonial line of horses.
Hello there. Hello. I must smell very interesting to them. Hey, what do I smell like? This is unexpected. It's absolutely amazing. It's a herd of relatively recently gathered wild horses, Mustangs. And they're just so naturally inquisitive. It's extraordinary. They've come up to say hello and check us out. Hello. Hello there. And they're just so calm. Just interested, want to have a sniff, see what we're about. I love how they're behaving just like a wild animal would. Big mare there on the outside, just checking out everything's okay. They take their cues from each other. One will be in charge and choose where they go. Came to check me out. I was no threat, nor was I any food. And now off they go again. That was amazing.
And we have more to learn from the 110-strong Gila herd.
How many of these have you been?
I head out with Neda, biologist Celeste, and horse behaviorist Eleanor to check the condition of the horses.
A lot of darting.
There's concern about the condition of one of the foals. We'll have to monitor it over the coming days. Next, we follow the ever-hungry herd to a spectacular location where the grass grows high.
There's so many generations with this herd that you see this one over here in this band is talking to the one in the middle over there. They're very connected. They're all related. They're all connected, and they've been together forever. It's impossible to separate this group. But they're still very connected. They move as one. They're like one big organism.
Return to Freedom are essentially trying to minimize the disruption that happens to herds of horses when they're gathered out of the wild. It's a worthy cause. They're recognizing that horses are sentient beings and that they form very close family bonds, and that breaking those bonds causes extraordinary stress to the horses, potentially leading to ongoing issues. I had to try and get a better look.
The horses came down into this amazing, beautiful field, grassy meadow, and I could see they were grazing their way across. So I hid myself on the far side of the skyline and came around and then scrambled up onto that pointy rock down there with the sun directly behind me so they couldn't see where I was. And then just sat there and watched them. And it's amazing. You hear all the noises of them chewing and snorting and whinnying to each other, completely oblivious of my presence. And then they headed back over. This is probably one of the best viewpoints you could possibly imagine for a herd of wild horses. Absolutely superb.
Then, an unwelcome sound. The motorcycle sets the herd off. Once horses have been spooked, it may take some time for them to calm down from the flight reaction. Their instinct to run from predators has kept them alive for centuries and made them very desirable to humans, who've used them both in battle and on the racetracks of the world. By end of day, they begin to calm down. Tomorrow we'll return to check on the state of the young foal and discover it's in a bad way.
You put it away.
So we're heading back.
needing medical attention as soon as possible.
Good shot.
Okay, cool. Okay. Go right now. Back leg, back leg.
My next stop is the Modoc National Forest, home to many wild horse herds, and this US Forest Service corral, used to hold excess numbers of horses and burros.
Where we are now is a very large corral. Can you explain to me what this is all about?
Yeah, so we are currently in the Double Devil Wild Horse Corrals, and the current capacity is between 300 and 350 horses.
Wow.
And last year we put 261 horses in this corral when it was still brand new,
Yeah.
you know, to get the dust off. And we've now found homes for all of those horses, so we're actually really proud of this place.
Who are those horses going to?
Some have gone to just private individuals who are interested in helping out. Some have gone to sanctuaries, and a lot of them have gone to trainers.
Neda and the Return to Freedom team have come here to adopt several of the horses which have not found homes.
9 to 16 years old.
So these are the guys that got left over.
These are the guys. And there's 2 mares at the back, too, over there.
Why does no one want them? Is it because they're that much older?
You know, I think they've done a really amazing job at placing almost like all the horses.
200 and something horses.
Yeah.
Horses are clearly an emotional issue, and you're clearly a horse lover. So
Right.
How do you feel when you get the opportunity to rehouse 10 big geldings like this?
Well, you know, we're really happy. We're always happy to see them move out of the corrals and give back something of what they've lost.
Yeah.
You know, and these horses are sentient beings. They're social mammals. They've just lost everything they've known for their entire life. These horses are 9 to 16 years old, so they've lived their whole life out on this beautiful rangeland. And so it will be nice to relocate them into a habitat that's a little bit more open and where they can resume more of a natural lifestyle.
These adoptees will be transported to another Return to Freedom sanctuary in the south.
Okay, ready to roll.
In the meantime, here at the Alturas location, we've returned to monitor the horses and bring medical treatment to the injured foal. The horses remain very curious about visitors and their vehicles.
This herd was first captured in 2003. It was 30, and it's now about 112, so they've grown a lot. They're very, very tightly bonded. You can see when they're together, they're always playing with each other. Constant grooming as well. Netta's saying hello.
Sanctuaries are one solution for wild horses in America, but there are few like this in the country.
You know, a sanctuary is never going to save them all, and so we do our best whenever possible to keep family bands and naturally occurring harem bands and social bands together. It's been challenging to get the Bureau of Land Management to work with us in that manner.
Fertility treatment to keep the population down is another solution, but what's clear is that horses continue to have an impact on the land and limited resources.
It's not without controversy, because horses are absolutely enormous. They do cause a lot of damage in the environment. And when there's so many people filling up the west part of the United States with people, with cows, with sheep, with goats, there's often not space for other things. There's also other wild animals out here. There's deer, there's pronghorn.
And above all, there's cattle. Wild horses and burros compete for grazing land, and that has lifted the debate to fever pitch. During my stay here in California, we discovered that over 40 burros, wild donkeys, had been shot by ranchers or their sympathizers out on the range. And this, to me, really demonstrates what's happening here. We have violent and aggressive people that are unwilling to share the land with horses and burros and other wild animals. I did manage to track down at least one rancher who sees things a little differently and has in fact been leasing some of his land to Return to Freedom wild horse sanctuaries.
And were some of the ranchers, cattle ranchers, against the idea of bringing horses on?
There was skepticism, certainly. Return to Freedom came here about 3 years ago, and it fits into our landscape because we're focused on a holistic grazing platform, holistic management platform, which to us means all walks of wildlife, livestock, cultivation of land, resting of land, and good management of wildlife and resources. And so Return to Freedom was in a pinch. They were looking for ground to move some of their horses to, and we were much obliged to try to help them.
And there's another little foal just beyond as well.
Now we've got to check up on the condition of the injured foal. It's looking worse today. Neda, Eleanor and Celeste decide it needs antibiotics and also immediate treatment of its leg.
Would you just do that from distance, or would you capture?
Realistically, we should catch them up, and we would need to catch him, and we should clean it.
It's really swollen, yeah.
It's not good. So they can read the subtlest body
The horses seem to know what we're up
because
to.
their survival depends on it. So they know exactly who we're targeting. They know.
And it's the same as you'd have in any wild ungulate. You've got the youngster in the middle and all the adults on the outside fanned around, looking out at the predators.
Yeah.
We come in peace.
We'll have to wait for an expert roper and a dose of antibiotics.
Sit down for a while.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the horses have some renewed confidence and come around for another visit.
Hello, my beauties. Have a nibble. Keep his teeth to yourself. Just stay still. Obviously, someone came in and gave another one of the horses a bit of a nibble. And then that was 400 kilos of wild horse bucking next to my face. So, make no sudden movements, I think is the key to that.
Some hay is put out to keep the herd close. Willie, the cattleman, arrives with his rope, and Eleanor prepares the antibiotic. We'll have to administer it at close range, along with some antiseptic for the leg.
Okay, so the poor little foal's really looking quite unwell. He got separated from the group and then finally staggered up and made his way back. And then as the group came over this way to feed, I could see it at the back, really laboring to keep up. And now it's collapsed. So we're heading back over, and Willie's got his lasso ready to rope the foal. And then we're gonna go out and try and hold it still and then give it some treatment. Poor little thing's obviously starting to succumb to its injuries, and it's just knackered. We've seen it feeding, so it's getting some nutrients, but it's just losing strength because of the injuries.
Now, just to chase down the mare and foal with the least amount of stress to all.
Stay in the truck till he gets it and then be ready.
Yeah, interesting. Look how protective the other horses are.
Oh, yeah.
Throw it once, I was afraid I wouldn't want to catch it.
Good shot. Good shot.
You want my help here or on the colt? All right. Front and back. Tail, under the tail.
Under the tail.
Under the tail. Yep.
Okay, cool. You all right, Niall?
I got it.
We're working on getting much-needed medical treatment to an injured foal at the Alturas Return to Freedom Sanctuary.
You out from under him?
Back legs, back legs.
Get on his back leg, I'll get on his front.
Sit on it. There you go.
It's very unusual for a cowboy to rope a horse like that in a Return to Freedom sanctuary. They normally use the least invasive method possible, but they needed to catch this horse very quickly because it was clearly so hurt. The thing that's most surprising about all of this isn't how the foal is reacting,
It's how the rest of the herd are reacting. They're just watching us. They're looking closely, they're inquisitive, they're interested in what we're doing.
Whoa.
But they're not being aggressive.
I'm gonna go to the other side of him.
Anyway, I'm gonna take the rope off to get to him.
Yeah, then he's free.
Lifting him.
Just really calm so he can get up nice. Very good job. Very good job. Excellent.
There you go, little guy. Looks better already.
It does actually.
Yeah, he really does. Where's Mum?
Actually, that's Dad.
Great stuff. Good job, Celeste. Well done.
Good job, you guys.
Nice work.
Who else you guys need out here?
I'm heading down to Southern California to another Return to Freedom sanctuary at Lompoc. One of the jobs here is to maintain the size of the herd by treating the mares with a proven fertility drug. Sometimes this involves rounding up the horses, first from the fields and then into smaller corrals.
Pete, you... Wait, Pete.
Again, these wild Mustangs seem to know what's up and are not cooperating.
This has been extraordinary. Just having a herd of wild horses run past you at 30 or 40 miles an hour is quite something. But we've just changed tactics, so one of the ranch hands has opened up the corner gate and is closing this middle gate that we were trying to push them into. It'll be much easier to herd them into that corner.
Round two.
Wait for Pete. So we're going to open that one in the corner and then push them that way.
Finally, we get them into the small transport corral.
Good job. Perfect timing.
Now to load them into the trailer for the short ride to the medical holding corral.
Nice and easy, that's it. Nice and easy.
You always have to be very wary when you're working around horses because they do kick out when they're angry, and the consequences of a kick to the face are really severe.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
We're moving a small group of wild horses from one corral to another for examination and possible fertility treatment.
Lift up. Right now. Go,
Más
go,
okay.
go.
Listo, 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 listo. Wow.
And just down the sanctuary road, the other corral. Transfer is a success. Now to treat one of the Mustang mares with the fertility drug, while avoiding getting kicked. Something easier said than done.
Obviously a little bit sore for her. Hello.
Take your time.
It's in.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, cool, nice. Now we need to put this out.
Next, I'm leaving the Lompoc Sanctuary behind and traveling to San Luis Obispo, about an hour away. Here, Neda wants to show me the extent of this amazing sanctuary and help out with the release of the adopted wild horses we saw at the US Forest Service corrals up north.
Looks like good grazing. It's still nice and green up there.
Yeah. But they're fat and glossy and looking good.
Yeah, they're in great shape.
It's interesting. They really prefer that eastern side of the ranch. So. Wow, this is good. These guys never approach.
Hello.
This is interesting. Oh, she's lovely. This is Ellie.
Hey, Ellie. It's really nice to see the evolution of these horses' life from the Forest Service compound up in Northern California to down here in SLO, where they're going to spend a night in the corral and then be out on the range.
They're looking around.
Okay. Here you go. Hello. Here you go. Fantastic. Hey, girls. There you go. It's been an 11-hour drive for them down from Northern California, so they'll be quite tired and definitely hungry. So perfect. So that's a really nice ending to this all, because we've just done the 2 mares, now here's the 10 geldings. And we've just shepherded them into this nice big meadow, so they're gonna have a cracking night of good feed after another 11-hour drive. This is their new home. Pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. How do you feel about this type of thing when you've got a completely new family of horses that you've suddenly released?
It's just always, you never get tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just great. You're just so happy to see that, you know, we'll give back what we can, some of what they've lost.
Yeah. Over the past couple of weeks, I've had the incredible privilege of witnessing herds of wild horses living way out in the wilderness, very much in balance with their environment. There's something special about horses. But the conservation of wild horses is the same as the conservation of any other species. It comes down to more than just numbers. It's about finding a way to coexist with an animal that is sentient and curious, that forms close family bonds, and that is ultimately deserving of a free life, just as much as any other wild animal, and yes, people. For me, the wild horse situation goes way farther than simply about whether or not we should control their numbers and their movements, or about whether or not they should be defined as wild or feral. It's about our place in a shared planet, and about how we interact with the world around us. In the end, the success of the wild horse program will come down to the people involved. That's the public, the ranchers, the advocates, and the government. And so I'm heartened to see that there are good people willing to give everything that they have got to ensure that the wild horse is as much a part of America's future as it is of its past.